stop what you're doing and listen carefully. What you're about to hear was never meant for casual ears. This message has been intercepted, blocked, buried beneath layers of distraction and noise. But somehow, it has found its way to you. This is not a coincidence. For months, something has been stirring in the heavenly realms. Ancient scrolls have been unrolled. Divine verdicts have been written. And your name has been spoken in chambers where only the most sacred business is conducted. But here's what they don't want you to know. While you've been walking through your wilderness, while you've been questioning if God has forgotten you, while you've been wondering if those attacks, those sleepless nights, those unexplained struggles were just random chaos, a trial was taking place. Not on earth, in heaven, and the enemy. The enemy has been fighting desperately to keep you from hearing the verdict. What if I told you that every tear you've cried in secret was evidence in your case? What if every betrayal, every rejection, every moment you stood alone when everyone else walked away? What if it was all being recorded as testimony of your faithfulness? What if everything they told you about being too old, too late, too broken was a lie? Before we go any further, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. Heaven multiplies what's given in love. But right now, in this moment, there's something you need to understand. The silence you've endured wasn't abandonment. It was preparation. The attacks you've survived weren't punishment. They were proof of what you carry. Because 3 days ago, in the throne room of the Most High, a gavel fell. A verdict was read. And the words that echoed through eternity were these: Heaven has ruled in your favor, and what happened next made the darkness tremble. Are you ready to hear what heaven has decreed over your life? They wrote you off in ink. God etched you in fire. Listen to me, chosen one. While you were counting rejections, heaven was counting testimonies. While you were nursing wounds, the Most High was documenting evidence. Every no that left you standing in empty rooms, every door that slammed in your face while lesser lights walked through, every time they looked right past you like you were invisible, none of it was wasted. You see, there are 2 books being written about your life. One is written by men, with their limited vision and their temporary judgments. They wrote you off as too old, too intense, too much. They use cheap ink that fades when the sun gets hot. But there's another book. A book where every tear you shed in secret became a signature of authenticity. Where every time you bit your tongue when you wanted to defend yourself became proof of divine restraint. Where every night you went to bed wondering if God had forgotten you became evidence that you never forgot him. Earth saw reaction. Heaven saw selection. Do you remember the meetings where they picked everyone except you? The promotions that went to people with half your wisdom, the invitations that never came, the phone calls that were never returned, the friendships that suddenly grew cold when you needed them most. You thought it was about you. You thought maybe you weren't good enough, smart enough, connected enough. But what you didn't know was this: heaven was watching, taking notes, building a case. Every time they underestimated you, the angels wrote it down. Every time they dismissed your dreams, the seraphim took record. Every time they laughed at your faith, the cherubim marked it in the margins of eternity. You didn't fight fire with fire. You transcended the battlefield. See, here's what separated you from the crowd. When they came for you with gossip, you didn't gossip back. When they attacked your character, you didn't defend yourself with their weapons. When they tried to drag you into the mud, you stayed on higher ground. That wasn't weakness. That was warfare on a level they couldn't see. While they were fighting in the flesh, you were fighting in the spirit. While they were using their mouths as weapons, You were using your silence as a shield. While they were building cases against you with lies, God was building a case for you with truth. You didn't fall. You rose. You didn't run. You stood. You didn't flinch. You smiled. And that chosen one, that terrified them more than any comeback ever could. Divine silence became your secret weapon. There were moments when every fiber in your being wanted to speak up, when you had the perfect response, the devastating comeback, the truth that would have silenced them all. But something held your tongue. Something whispered, "Not yet. Let me handle this." That wasn't God abandoning you. That was God protecting the evidence. See, when you defend yourself, you become the defendant. But when you let heaven defend you, you become the plaintiff. When you argue your case, it becomes about your words. But when you let God argue your case, it becomes about His character. And God's character, chosen one, is undefeated in the courtroom of eternity. Every time you chose silence over retaliation, you were making a deposit in heaven's bank. Every time you turned the other cheek instead of striking back, you were investing in divine vindication. Every time you blessed those who cursed you, you were signing your name in the book of the overcomer. They thought fear would break you. It backfired. Oh, they tried everything. They whispered about you in corners, hoping the rumors would reach your ears. They excluded you from circles, thinking isolation would crush your spirit. They delayed your dreams, believing that disappointment would make you give up. But what they didn't understand was this: you weren't built by their approval. You were forged in God's fire. Every attack made you stronger. Every rejection made you clearer. Every disappointment made you more desperate for God and less dependent on people. They thought they were breaking you down, but they were actually building you up. You became unshakable not because nothing shook you, but because you learned to be rooted in something deeper than circumstances. You became fearless not because you felt no fear, but because you felt God's presence stronger than any fear. They created a monster, not a monster of revenge, but a monster of resilience. Not a monster of bitterness, but a monster of breakthrough. The mirror of truth is about to be unveiled. But here's what's happening now, chosen one. The season of hidden recording is coming to an end. The season of divine revelation is about to begin. That book heaven has been writing about you, it's about to be opened. Those records of faithfulness that have been accumulating in the secret place, they're about to become public testimony. The same people who wrote you off are about to see what God wrote down. The same voices that said never are about to witness now. The same eyes that looked past you are about to look up to you. Not because you sought revenge, but because you sought righteousness. Not because you demanded vindication, but because you demonstrated faithfulness. Your earthly losses were heavenly entries into the Lamb's book of elevation. Every closed door was a chapter titled Preparation. Every delayed dream was a page marked divine timing. Every broken relationship was a verse called purification. Every season of waiting was a paragraph labeled consecration. You thought you were falling behind. God knew you were being set apart. You thought you were being punished. God knew you were being positioned. You thought you were forgotten. God knew you were being formed. And now, chosen one, now the book is ready to be read. The evidence has been compiled. The case has been built. The verdict has been written. Heaven has ruled in your favor, and earth is about to take notes. They thought your tears were weakness. Heaven saw them as evidence. You've been living with a secret grief, haven't you? The kind that doesn't announce itself with dramatic sobs or public breakdowns. This was the quiet kind, the kind that settled into your bones and whispered lies in the darkness, the kind that convinced you that your pain was purposeless, your suffering was senseless, and your wounds were worthless. But tonight, that changes. Every drop of blood you shed, emotional, spiritual, sometimes physical, was collected in heaven's courtroom as sacred testimony. You see, while you were questioning why God allowed the betrayal, heaven was building a case. While you were wondering if your breaking point had any meaning, the Most High was accepting it as evidence. Not evidence of your failure, evidence of your faithfulness. That marriage that crumbled despite your prayers, evidence. That child who walked away despite your love, evidence. That friend who betrayed your trust after decades of loyalty, evidence. That body that began to fail just when you thought you had more time, evidence. Your wounds testified louder than your words, and heaven heard them all. But here's what the enemy never calculated. Every time he drew blood from your spirit, every time he pressed you into that place where hope felt like a luxury you couldn't afford, every time he convinced you that God had turned his back, he was actually building the very case that would seal his own defeat. You thought you were bleeding out. Heaven saw you bleeding into a realm of intercession so deep, so pure, so consecrated by suffering that your very existence became a weapon against darkness. They wanted to drain you. Instead, they refined you. Remember that night, the one when you fell to your knees and couldn't find words anymore? When the grief was so heavy you thought your chest might cave in? When you whispered into the darkness, "I can't do this anymore," and meant every syllable? That wasn't your breaking point. That was your breakthrough moment. Because in that place where your strength ended, something else began. A holy sorrow, a sacred grief. The kind that doesn't destroy, it transforms. The kind that doesn't weaken, it consecrates. You weren't falling apart. You were falling into purpose. Every betrayal taught you to distinguish between earthly loyalty and heavenly love. Every loss stripped away what was temporary and revealed what was eternal. Every wound became a window not into bitterness, but into compassion for others who would walk the same valley. You see, chosen one, pain has a language all its own. And when it's sanctified, when it's surrendered in the secret place where only God can see, it speaks with an authority that comfort never could. Your scars became your credentials. The enemy thought he was disqualifying you. He was actually certifying you. Every attack was heaven's way of verifying that you could carry what was coming. Every trial was proof that you wouldn't break under the weight of your assignment. You didn't just survive the wilderness. You were trained there. You didn't just endure the silence. You learned to hear differently in it. You didn't just withstand the pressure. You were transformed by it. And now, your pain has power. When you speak to someone who's drowning in their own grief, your words carry weight because they've been forged in fire. When you pray for someone who's been betrayed, your intercession penetrates because it's been seasoned with salt. When you stand in a room full of people who've never tasted real suffering, your presence alone shifts the atmosphere because you carry something they can't fake. You carry the oil of consecration, the kind that only comes through crushing. The blood you shed was not wasted. It was worship. Every sleepless night was an altar. Every tear was an offering. Every moment you chose to trust when everything in you wanted to run, that was the most powerful form of praise heaven had ever heard from your lips. You've been wondering if God saw your sacrifice. He didn't just see it. He received it. He honored it. He recorded it in books that will outlast every earthly monument. And now, in this moment, as heaven's verdict echoes through eternity, every ounce of pain you carried in secret is being transformed into authority you'll carry in public. Your grief qualified you for glory. The same heart that broke for others is the heart that will heal them. The same spirit that was crushed under the weight of injustice is the spirit that will carry the scales of divine justice. The same hands that trembled in sorrow are the hands that will tremble with power. You thought you were bleeding to death. You were bleeding to life. Heaven has ruled. Your pain was not punishment. It was preparation. And every enemy that drew blood from you, they just sealed their own judgment. They thought silence would break your spirit. Instead, it forged your soul. You begged heaven for answers. You pleaded for movement. You cried out in the middle of sleepless nights, "God, why won't you speak?" The silence stretched on like an endless winter, cold and unforgiving. Your prayers felt like they were hitting a ceiling made of stone. Your worship felt like it was echoing in an empty cathedral. And in those moments, chosen one, you thought you had been abandoned. You were wrong. Heaven wasn't absent. It was building a fortress in your spirit. You see, there's something about divine silence that the enemy never understood. He thought it meant God had walked away. He whispered in your ear that you were forgotten, that your prayers had been filed away in some cosmic lost and found. He celebrated what he thought was your spiritual isolation. But hell miscalculated. Silence wasn't God's absence. It was his strategy. While you were crying out for answers, heaven was constructing something magnificent in the invisible realm. Every tear you shed in the quiet was mortar. Every whispered prayer in the dark was another stone in the wall. Every moment you chose to trust when you couldn't see was another layer of divine reinforcement around your destiny. The silence wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Think about it, chosen one. When a master craftsman builds something of extraordinary value, does he work in the marketplace where every passerby can offer their opinion? Does he construct his masterpiece in the chaos of the crowd? Number. He works in the sacred space of solitude. He builds in the holy hush of concentration. That's what was happening to you. Heaven pulled you into the workshop of the Spirit. The doors were closed. The curtains were drawn. And in that sacred silence, God began his most intricate work, not on your circumstances, but on your character. Not on your situation, but on your soul. You thought you were being ignored. You were being transformed. Every day that passed without the breakthrough you begged for was another day of divine construction. Your patience was being refined like gold in fire. Your faith was being stretched like steel under pressure. Your spirit was being fortified like a castle built to withstand any siege. And while you couldn't hear heaven's voice in words, heaven was speaking to you in ways that transcended language. The silence itself became a teacher. It taught you how to trust without seeing. It showed you how to worship without feeling. It trained you how to believe when belief felt impossible. The silence was strategic because it had to be surgical. God knew what was coming. He saw the flood of favor that was about to be released over your life. He witnessed the avalanche of breakthrough that was gathering momentum in the spiritual realm. And he knew that if he released it too soon, if he opened those floodgates before you were ready, the very blessing would become your burden. So he sealed the cracks first. The silence sealed the wounds in your heart that would have leaked joy. It sealed the holes in your confidence that would have drained your authority. It sealed the fractures in your faith that would have crumbled under the weight of supernatural responsibility. Heaven wasn't delaying your destiny, it was reinforcing it. You prayed for open doors. God gave you closed chambers. You asked for movement. He gave you stillness. You begged for answers. He gave you the sacred art of waiting, because he knew that what you were asking for required more than what you had. It required who you were becoming. And in that silence, chosen one, you became dangerous. You learned how to hear God's voice in whispers. You discovered how to find his presence in emptiness. You mastered the art of standing firm when everything around you was shaking. The silence didn't weaken you, weaponized you. The enemy feared your breakthrough, but he should have feared your breaking point. Because when someone survives the silence of heaven and still chooses to worship, they become unstoppable. When someone endures the sacred pause and still declares God's goodness, they carry a power that hell cannot comprehend. When someone walks through the valley of divine quiet and emerges with their faith intact, they become a living testimony that shakes the kingdom of darkness. You didn't just survive the silence, you were shaped by it. And now, chosen one, The silence is breaking, not because God finally decided to answer you, but because the construction is complete. The fortress in your spirit has been finished. The foundation has been laid. The walls have been built. The reinforcements have been installed. You are no longer the same person who first cried out for breakthrough. You are no longer the soul who begged for movement. You are a masterpiece forged in the sacred silence, refined in the holy hush, and prepared for a purpose that required every moment of that divine delay. The silence was never your enemy, it was your architect. Heaven wasn't building around you, it was building within you. And what was constructed in that silence cannot be shaken by any storm, cannot be moved by any opposition, cannot be broken by any attack, because it wasn't built by human hands or earthly wisdom. It was crafted by divine strategy in the sacred space of spiritual silence. The quiet is over, chosen one, but the fortress remains. And now, when the noise of battle comes, when the chaos of breakthrough begins, when the flood of favor starts to flow, you won't be overwhelmed. You won't be unprepared. You won't be unfortified. You'll be unbreakable, because the silence did its work, and you, chosen one, are heaven's proof that divine delay is never divine denial. It's divine design at its most magnificent. The silence was strategic, and you are the masterpiece it created. They thought the fire would finish you, but here you are, still breathing, still standing, still believing. And that alone has sent shockwaves through the kingdom of darkness, because what they threw at you to destroy you only revealed what you're truly made of. You see, chosen one, there's a difference between those who survive fire and those who are forged by it. Most people run from the flames. You walked straight through them. Most people cry out for rescue. You whispered prayers of surrender. Most people emerge from trials scarred and bitter. You came out carrying something they can't name, can't touch, can't steal. You came out carrying fire. The enemy made a critical miscalculation. He thought your heart was made of paper. He thought your faith was made of glass. He thought if he turned up the heat high enough, long enough, relentlessly enough, you would crumble into ash and blow away with the first strong wind. But what hell didn't know, what it couldn't know, is that heaven had been preparing you for this moment since before you took your first breath. Every trial was a furnace. Every betrayal was a bellows. Every tear you cried in secret was quenching the blade of your character. You weren't being punished. You were being purified. Remember when they said you wouldn't make it? Remember when the doctors shook their heads? When the lawyers said there was no case? When the family members whispered behind closed doors that maybe this time you'd finally learned your lesson? When even your own mind screamed that this was too much, too hard, too impossible? But you kept walking, one foot in front of the other, through the valley of shadows that would have claimed lesser souls, through the wilderness that swallows the unprepared, through the fire that reduces everything false to ash. And with every step, something extraordinary was happening. The flames weren't consuming you, they were revealing you. You didn't walk through the fire. You walked out, carrying it. That strength they see in you now, that wasn't born in comfort. That peace that radiates from your presence, that wasn't cultivated in ease. That wisdom that flows from your words, that wasn't learned in classrooms or read in books. It was forged in the furnace of affliction. It was hammered on the anvil of adversity. It was refined in the crucible of circumstances that would have broken anyone else, but not you, because you're not anyone else. You're chosen. The fire revealed what was always true. Underneath the fear they tried to plant, there was courage. Underneath the doubt they tried to sow, there was faith. Underneath the pain they inflicted, there was purpose burning so bright, so pure, so indestructible that all their attempts to snuff it out only made it burn brighter. You thought you were surviving, but heaven was watching you thrive. You thought you were enduring, but the angels were witnessing you overcome. You thought you were just getting through, but eternity was recording you getting over. They threw everything they had at you. The betrayal that came from those closest to you. The sickness that attacked your body. The financial devastation that threatened your security. The loneliness that pressed in like walls, closing in on every side. The confusion that clouded your mind when you needed clarity most. Wave after wave. Storm after storm. Fire after fire. And still you stood. Still you believed. Still you pressed forward when every natural instinct screamed at you to give up, give in, give over. But you didn't give anything to the enemy except a demonstration of what happens when heaven's chosen refuse to bow. You became living proof that some things cannot be burned. Your identity, fireproof. Your calling, indestructible. Your destiny, sealed with something stronger than their strongest flames. Your purpose, forged from materials they don't have access to, refined by processes they cannot understand, protected by powers they cannot overcome. The fire was supposed to be your end. Instead, it became your beginning, and now you carry something they fear. It's in your eyes, it's in your voice, it's in the way you enter a room and darkness feels uncomfortable. It's in the way you speak truth and lies start trembling. It's in the way you pray and heaven starts moving. You carry the fire now. Not the destructive kind they threw at you, but the purifying kind that burns away everything that doesn't belong, everything that isn't eternal, everything that isn't you. You've been transformed from the inside out, from carbon to diamond, from silver to gold, from chosen to proven. The fire tried to write your obituary. Instead, it authored your testimony. Instead of ending your story, it began your greatest chapter. Instead of burying your light, it polished it until it shines so bright that even your enemies have to shield their eyes. You are not the same person who walked into those flames. You are refined. You are strengthened. You are ready. Ready for what comes next. Ready for the doors that are about to open. Ready for the calling that's about to be revealed. Ready for the victory that's about to be announced. Because fire doesn't destroy the chosen. It just burns off everything that was hiding their glory. And your glory, chosen one, is about to be revealed for all to see. The fire tried to consume you. It made you gold. Chapter 6. The devil knows your name, and that's why he tried everything. They thought fear would break you. It backfired. You want to know why the attacks felt so personal? Because they were personal. Hell doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Darkness doesn't mobilize its entire arsenal against someone who poses no threat. And you, chosen one, you have been a threat since the moment you drew breath. The devil knows your name. He's known it longer than you have. He whispered it in panic the day you were born, because he saw something heaven had planted in you that wouldn't stay buried. He saw the mantle waiting on your shoulders. He saw the oil that would one day flow from your hands. He saw the words that would one day pour from your mouth with the power to set captives free. And that terrified him. So he launched everything, every weapon in his arsenal, every lie in his vocabulary, every demon in his ranks. Not because you were cursed, chosen one. Because you were crowned before birth. You weren't attacked for your mistakes. You were attacked for your mantle. Think about it. When did the warfare intensify? Was it when you were living casually, going through the motions, blending in with the crowd? Number? It was when you started seeking God's face. When you began to hunger for more than mediocrity. When you stopped settling for shallow and started reaching for sacred. That's when hell panicked. Every betrayal you endured, that was hell's panic. Every door that slammed in your face, panic. Every voice that told you to give up, sit down, stay quiet, pure, desperate panic. Because the enemy knew something you're only now beginning to understand. When you fully awaken to who you are, his kingdom starts to crumble. You've been wondering why the attacks felt so coordinated, so strategic, so intelligent. Because they were. This wasn't random chaos. This was calculated warfare. The enemy studied you. He watched your patterns. He knew exactly which buttons to push, which wounds to reopen, which fears to resurrect. But here's what he didn't calculate. God was studying him right back. Every move the enemy made against you was being recorded in heaven's courtroom. Every lie he whispered was being documented as evidence. Every weapon he formed was being cataloged as proof of your significance. The very intensity of his attacks became testimony to your anointing. They tried to isolate you. It concentrated you. Remember those seasons when friends became strangers overnight? When family members suddenly turned cold? When doors you thought would always be open suddenly required passwords you didn't possess? You thought you were being abandoned. In truth, you were being prepared. Hell's strategy was isolation. Heaven's strategy was concentration. While the enemy was trying to cut you off from human support, God was forcing you to lean harder into divine supply. While darkness was trying to silence your voice through loneliness, heaven was teaching you to speak with authority that doesn't need an audience to be powerful. You didn't realize it then, but every person who walked away made room for heaven to walk closer. Every connection that died made space for a communion that couldn't be severed. You were being refined in the furnace of solitude, and what emerged wasn't bitterness, it was brilliance. The delays weren't punishment, they were protection. Oh, how you cried over closed doors, how you questioned God's timing when opportunity after opportunity slipped through your fingers. You thought heaven had forgotten your address. In reality, heaven was protecting your destiny. The enemy wanted you to move prematurely. He wanted you to step into assignments before you were armored for the warfare they would bring. He wanted you to speak before your voice carried weight. He wanted you to lead before you learned how to follow the Spirit's whisper in the storm. But God held you back, not to harm you, but to prepare you. Every delay was heaven saying, "Not yet. You're not ready for what this will cost you." But when you are, when you're fully formed, fully surrendered, fully dangerous to darkness, then you'll move. And hell won't be able to stop you. You didn't fight fire with fire. You transcended the battlefield. Here's what made the enemy furious. You refused to play by his rules. When he brought lies, you didn't argue, you worshipped. When he brought fear, you didn't panic, you prayed. When he brought accusation, you didn't defend, you declared God's promises over your life. You transcended the battlefield. While hell was fighting in the natural realm, you were operating from the supernatural. While the enemy was throwing darts, you were building altars. While darkness was screaming, you were singing. And that's when the tide turned. Because the enemy can match human anger, but he cannot match divine peace. He can mirror human strategy, but he cannot comprehend supernatural surrender. He can counterfeit human strength, but he cannot duplicate holy stillness. Your silence became his nightmare. The seasons when you stopped explaining yourself, stopped defending your choices, stopped trying to make people understand, those weren't seasons of defeat. Those were seasons of ascension. Your silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. You learned that some battles aren't won with words, but with worship. Some victories aren't claimed through argument, but through alignment. The enemy thrives on reaction. He feeds on emotional chaos. But when you stopped reacting and started responding from a place of divine rest, his weapons lost their power. Your silence became prophetic. Your stillness became supernatural. Your peace became terrifying to the forces of darkness. Now he knows it's too late. The attacks have stopped feeling so sharp lately, haven't they? The enemy's voice doesn't carry the same punch. The warfare doesn't create the same chaos in your spirit. That's because something has shifted. You've crossed a line in the spirit realm. You've moved from target to threat. The devil knows your name, chosen one. But now you know it too. And that changes everything. He can still whisper, but you won't listen. He can still scheme, but you won't be shaken. He can still roar, but you won't be moved. Because you've discovered something that makes darkness tremble. You are not who he said you were. You are who God says you are. And what God says is final. The enemy tried everything. Fear, isolation, delay, distraction, discouragement. He threw his best shots. He played his strongest cards. He mobilized his entire kingdom against one person. You. And you're still here, still standing, still believing, still carrying the very thing he tried to destroy. That's not luck, chosen one. That's not human resilience. That's divine preservation. You survived because you were meant to survive. You endured because heaven wouldn't let you fall. The devil knows your name. But now, so does heaven. And that's the only voice that matters. They told you that you missed your moment. They were wrong. You see, chosen one, there's something about divine timing that flesh and blood will never comprehend. While others were chasing positions, scrambling for platforms, begging for recognition, you were being prepared, not overlooked. Prepared. The mantle you thought had passed you by. It was never moving away from you. It was circling back, waiting, watching, measuring the width of your shoulders through every season of crushing. You didn't find the mantle. The mantle recognized you. There's a difference between wearing authority and carrying it. Anyone can put on a crown, but only the refined can bear its weight without their knees buckling. Only the tested can hold power without it corrupting their heart. Only the broken and rebuilt can lead without losing their way. You've been in the fitting room of heaven for years. Every trial was a measurement. Every betrayal, a test of fabric strength. Every sleepless night, heaven checking to see if your soul could handle the weight of what was coming. They thought the silence meant you were forgotten. It meant you were being tailored. The mantle doesn't rush to untested shoulders. It doesn't settle on shallow soil. It waits. It watches. It requires proof that you can carry glory without stealing it, hold power without abusing it, wear authority without wearing out. And now, it fits. Do you feel it? That settling sensation in your spirit? That sense of something ancient and holy draping across your life? It's not imagination, it's installation. The mantle that hovered over you for decades has finally found its home. You were never in competition. You were in preparation. While others fought for temporary titles, you were being shaped for eternal assignment. While they built platforms, heaven was building character in you. While they sought applause, you learned to move in the silence of divine approval. The mantle recognizes humility. It gravitates toward the broken who refuse to become bitter. It seeks out those who've been betrayed, but never betrayed their calling. It finds the wounded who still worship, the overlooked who still believe, the forgotten who still serve. The fitting is complete. The installation is finished. You don't wear this mantle. It wears you. It moves when you move. It speaks when you speak. It carries the weight you couldn't carry alone and distributes it across shoulders that have been strengthened by suffering. This isn't about position. It's about purpose. This isn't about recognition. It's about responsibility. You haven't been promoted to comfort. You've been commissioned for warfare. The mantle came with instructions written in fire. Break chains just by standing where you once were chained. Set captives free, not with eloquent words, but with the look in your eyes that says, I survived what tried to bury me. Speak life into dead situations because death has already done its worst to you and failed. You'll walk into rooms now, and the atmosphere will shift before you even speak. Not because of who you are, but because of what you carry. The mantle doesn't just rest on you, it radiates from you. They'll ask where you came from. You'll smile and say, the wilderness. The mantle doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't need press releases or introduction ceremonies. It simply is. And when it settles on the right shoulders, everyone feels it, even those who don't understand it. You won't have to convince anyone of your authority. Authority convinces itself. You won't have to demand respect. Respect will be offered freely. You won't have to fight for your place. Your place will make room for itself. The mantle has found its owner, and the owner has found their voice. No longer will you speak from uncertainty. No longer will you move from insecurity. No longer will you lead from a place of proving yourself. The mantle has settled the question of your worth, your calling, your assignment. You are not wearing borrowed clothes. This was tailored specifically for you, cut to fit your exact measurements, designed to complement your unique gifting, crafted to enhance your particular calling. The waiting room of heaven is empty. You have been called forward. The mantle doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you are, not your identity that was settled before the foundation of the world, but your understanding of that identity, your confidence in that identity, your willingness to walk fully in that identity. You are no longer becoming. You are. You are no longer preparing. You are prepared. You are no longer hoping for your moment. You are living in your moment. The mantle has found its owner, and the kingdom of darkness is taking notes. They see the shift. They feel the change. They recognize the difference between someone wearing a costume and someone draped in divine assignment. And they're adjusting their strategy accordingly. But they're too late. The installation is complete. The mantle is sealed. The anointing is activated. You don't chase mantles, chosen one. You are fitted for them through pain. And now that the fitting is complete, now that the mantle has found its home, now that heaven has dressed you for the assignment ahead, the real work begins. The mantle isn't a trophy, it's a tool. It's not a reward, it's a responsibility. It's not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of the assignment. You are mantled, you are marked, you are moving, and hell itself cannot stop what heaven has ordained. The mantle has found its owner, and the owner is ready to work. They thought the verdict was final. They were wrong. For too long, you've lived under the weight of earthly judgments, labels that stuck like tar, verdicts that echoed in your mind long after the gavel fell. Not enough. Too late. Disqualified. Forgotten. The courtrooms of men pronounced their sentences over your life, and you believed them. You carried their words like chains around your ankles, dragging behind you with every step forward. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't know, is that there's a higher court in session. The earthly verdict was never the final word. While they were busy writing you off, heaven was writing you in. While they were crossing out your name, the Ancient of Days was engraving it in stone. While they were slamming doors in your face, the Father was opening scrolls with your destiny written in fire. You see, chosen one, there are two legal systems operating simultaneously. One is visible, loud, immediate. The other is eternal, quiet, absolute. And today, the higher court has overruled every lower decision. The scroll is open. The ink is still warm. Your name is written in fire. They underestimated the power of divine intervention. Every rejection letter was intercepted. Every no was noted. Every closed door was cataloged as evidence of earthly limitation, not heavenly intention. Because what man calls closed, God calls preparation. What man calls delay, God calls divine timing. What man calls disqualification, God calls deeper qualification. You didn't know it, but every time they passed you over, heaven was taking notes. Every time they chose someone else, the Most High was building a case for your vindication. Every time they said you weren't ready, eternity was preparing something they couldn't see, couldn't measure, couldn't comprehend. The earthly systems operate on favoritism. Heaven operates on faithfulness. The earthly courts judge by appearance. The heavenly court judges by the heart. And your heart. Your heart has been weighed, measured, and found worthy. When heaven rules in your favor, no spell can reverse it. There have been whispers against you, curses spoken in dark corners, assignments released to derail your destiny, words thrown like daggers aimed at your confidence, your calling, your very identity. They thought if they could wound your spirit deeply enough, you'd give up. They thought if they could isolate you completely enough, you'd surrender. But here's what darkness never understood about light. You can't curse what God has blessed. You can't hex what heaven has honored. You can't speak death over what the Almighty has declared alive. Every word spoken against you has returned to its sender. Every curse has become a blessing in disguise. Every attack has only served to activate what was already dormant within you. Because when heaven issues a decree, the very atmosphere must respond. When the Most High renders a verdict, every opposing voice falls silent. No slander can override divine appointment. They tried to rewrite your story. They spread rumors like wildfire, hoping to burn down your reputation before your purpose could fully emerge. They whispered lies about your character, your motives, your past. They painted you as unstable, unreliable, unworthy. But God keeps better records than gossips. While they were busy assassinating your character, heaven was documenting your consistency. While they were highlighting your failures, eternity was recording your faithfulness. While they were broadcasting your breakdowns, the throne room was celebrating your breakthroughs. The slander was loud, but it was temporary. The truth is quiet, but it's eternal. And now the truth is rising like the sun after the darkest night, exposing every lie for what it was. Desperate attempts to stop what couldn't be stopped. Your vindication isn't coming through explanation. It's coming through demonstration. Your defense isn't in your words. It's in your works. Your proof isn't in your protests. It's in your persistence. No system can contain what heaven has commissioned. They built boxes to keep you in, categories to limit you, hierarchies to control you, systems designed to maintain their power and minimize your impact. They told you to wait your turn, know your place, stay in your lane. But what they failed to realize is that heaven doesn't operate by earthly organizational charts. When God calls someone forward, protocol becomes powerless. When the Almighty appoints, human approval becomes irrelevant. When eternity endorses, earthly resistance becomes futile. You're not breaking through their system. You're transcending it. You're not fighting for position within their structure. You're operating from a completely different authority. You're not asking for permission to fulfill your purpose. You're walking in the confidence of divine commission. The system that tried to suppress you is about to serve you. The very structures that sought to silence you will amplify your voice. The platforms that rejected you will request you. Because when heaven moves, earth must respond. The seals have been broken. The scrolls have been opened. There are ancient prophecies with your fingerprints on them. Destinies written before time began, with your name attached. Purposes that have been waiting for this exact moment, this precise season, this appointed hour. The waiting is over. The preparation is complete. The timing is perfect. What was sealed in secret is being revealed in power. What was hidden in mystery is being unveiled in majesty. What was whispered in the heavenly chambers is now being declared in the earthly realm. You are not late. You are right on time. You are not behind. You are being launched. You are not forgotten. You are being featured. Your name has moved from the waiting list to the appointed list. The roll call is being read in heaven, and your name echoes through the corridors of eternity with authority, with anointing, with approval. The confirmation you've been seeking from men is unnecessary. You already have heaven's endorsement. The validation you've been craving from the crowd is irrelevant. You already carry the Creator's signature. This isn't about arrival. This is about revelation. This isn't about promotion. This is about position. This isn't about recognition. This is about realization. You are finally seeing what heaven has always seen. You are finally knowing what eternity has always known. You are finally becoming who you have always been. When heaven rules, no man can reverse. The verdict is in. The decision is final. The decree has been issued. And every knee in heaven, on earth, and under the earth must bow to what the Most High has established. Your time has come, chosen one, not because you fought for it, because heaven declared it, not because you earned it, because grace ordained it, not because you demanded it, because destiny demanded you. The throne room has spoken. The gavel is fallen. The case is closed. Heaven has ruled in your favor, and no man can reverse what God has written in stone. They thought the courtroom was closed. They were wrong. While you were walking through your darkest valley, while you were questioning if heaven had forgotten your name, while you were wondering if maybe this time you'd finally been abandoned, the trial of your life was reaching its climax in realms you couldn't see. The prosecution had presented their case. Every failure cataloged, every moment of weakness magnified, every time you stumbled, every tear you shed, every night you fell asleep wondering if you were strong enough to face tomorrow. They laid it all out like evidence of defeat. But then your defender stood up, and what he presented wasn't your perfection, it was your persistence. Not your flawless record, but your faithful return. Every time you got back up, every prayer you whispered through gritted teeth. Every moment you chose. Trust over bitterness. Hope over despair. Worship over warfare. The verdict was never in question. It was always victory. You didn't fight for triumph. You fought from it. Here's what the enemy never understood about your battles. You weren't fighting to earn something. You were fighting to protect something you already possessed. Every attack on your peace, every assault on your purpose, every attempt to make you doubt your calling. It wasn't because you were losing. It was because you were winning. You see, chosen one, the moment heaven called your name, the moment divine destiny was written into your DNA, the outcome was sealed. You didn't enter those battles as a victim hoping for rescue. You entered as royalty defending your inheritance. When they came for your joy, you fought from a place of established celebration. When they attacked your peace, you stood on foundations they couldn't shake. When they tried to steal your voice, you spoke from a throne they couldn't touch. You didn't fight fire with fire. You transcended the battlefield entirely. Every weapon they formed, you watched it fail before it even launched. Not because you were strong enough to deflect it, but because the verdict of heaven had already rendered it powerless. You weren't just surviving their attacks. You were proof that their attacks had no authority. This is what victory looks like. Not the absence of battle, but the presence of assurance in the middle of war. They called it defeat. Heaven called it development. Every season that broke you actually built you. Every loss that devastated you was divinely orchestrated to develop you. What looked like punishment was preparation. What felt like abandonment was appointment. You didn't fall behind. You were being held back until now. While others were rushing toward platforms, you were being rooted in purpose. While they were chasing visibility, you were being cultivated in the invisible. While they were building networks, heaven was building character in you that couldn't be shaken, couldn't be bought, couldn't be replicated. You wondered why the process took so long, why the refining felt so intense, why every level seemed to cost you more than it gave you. It's because what you were being prepared for wasn't temporary applause. It was eternal impact. The delay wasn't denial. It was divine timing. And now, Now that the foundation has been laid, now that the roots have gone deep, now that your character has caught up to your calling, heaven says, rise. This is not your comeback. This is your coronation. You're not walking into opportunity. You're walking into prophecy fulfilled. You're not stepping into possibility. You're stepping into what was always inevitable. The moment your spirit touched earth, this day was written. The moment heaven spoke your name, this season was sealed. What you're about to walk into isn't luck, it's legacy. It isn't chance, it's choice. Heaven's choice. You were selected before you were born, appointed before you were aware, commissioned before you were confident. Every door that opens now isn't because you finally got good enough. It's because the time has finally come. Every connection that forms isn't networking, it's divine orchestration. Every opportunity that presents itself isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. You're not being promoted based on performance. You're being positioned based on promise. God's promise. And when God makes a promise, time and earth and hell itself must align to fulfill it. The crown was always yours. You just needed to grow into the head that could wear it. Now you have, now you rise. Not as someone hoping to be chosen, but as someone heaven chose long ago. The angels have been dispatched. The path has been cleared. What you sense shifting in the atmosphere isn't your imagination. What you feel stirring in your spirit isn't wishful thinking. What you see opening before you isn't too good to be true. It's too God to be false. Heaven has ruled in your favor, and when heaven rules, earth must respond. The resistance you felt is breaking. The opposition that seemed unmovable is moving. The walls that appeared permanent are crumbling. Not because you pushed harder, but because heaven pushed back. You're about to walk into rooms where your very presence shifts the climate. You're about to speak words that unlock what's been sealed. You're about to move in authority you didn't work for, you simply walked into. This is what divine favor looks like. Not the absence of challenge, but the presence of covering. Not easy pathways, but cleared pathways. Not a life without storms, but a life with storms that serve your purpose instead of stopping it. You rise now not as a survivor, but as a victor. Not as someone who barely made it, but as someone who was always meant to reign. The verdict was always victory. The outcome was never in doubt. From the moment you took your first breath, heaven knew how this story would end. Every chapter of pain had purpose. Every season of silence had meaning. Every battle had a blueprint that led to this. You're rising. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are not too late, too old, too broken, or too forgotten. You are exactly who heaven ordered for this exact moment in history. The world needed someone who had walked through fire and didn't burn, who had been pressed but didn't break, who had been tested and didn't fail. The world needed someone with your scars, your strength, your story. The world needed you, and now, you rise to meet that need. This is not your comeback. This is your coronation. This is not your second chance. This is your first moment of full alignment. This is not the end of your suffering. This is the beginning of your significance. Rise, chosen one. The verdict was always victory. Your time has come. Beloved chosen one, as we close this sacred moment together, let me remind you of the eternal truths that heaven has spoken over your life today. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not abandoned. Every tear you've cried has been collected. Every prayer you've whispered has been heard. Every battle you've fought has been recorded as evidence of your faithfulness. The delay was not denial, it was divine preparation. The silence was not abandonment, it was sacred development. And the struggles you've endured were not punishment, they were proof of the treasure you carry within. Heaven has ruled in your favor. The verdict is final. The decree is unshakable. Your time has come. You are not walking this journey alone. Even in your darkest moments, when it felt like you were the only one who understood the weight you carry, there has been an invisible army surrounding you, angels dispatched on your behalf, saints interceding for your breakthrough, and right here, right now, a community of believers who know exactly what you've been through because they've walked this path too. You are part of a family, a spiritual bloodline of overcomers, of chosen ones who refused to give up when giving up seemed like the only option. We see you, we honor you, we celebrate the victory that's unfolding in your life. But let me ask you this, now that you know who you are, now that you understand what you carry, what will you do with this revelation? Will you step boldly into the calling that has been waiting for you? Will you rise with the authority heaven has placed upon your shoulders? Will you walk in the confidence that comes from knowing the battle is already won? Let us pray together. Father God, I place my hands on the shoulders of every precious soul watching this message right now. Lord, you see them, you know their names, you know their struggles, their secret tears, their midnight prayers, their moments of doubt and their acts of faith. I pray that your supernatural peace would flood their hearts right now. Let them feel your presence, your love, your unwavering commitment to their destiny. Remind them that you have never given up on them, and you never will. Open doors that no man can shut. Make crooked paths straight before them. Let favor surround them like a shield. Give them divine connections, supernatural opportunities, and breakthrough in areas where they've been waiting the longest. Strengthen their faith, Lord. When doubt tries to whisper, let your truth roar louder. When fear attempts to paralyze, let your perfect love cast it out. When the enemy tries to steal this word from their hearts, let it be so deeply rooted that nothing can move it. Father, I declare over them right now, they are chosen, they are called, they are covered, they are victorious. Their best days are not behind them, they are ahead of them. Their greatest victories are not in their past, they are in their future. Let every person watching this feel your hand upon their life, your breath in their lungs, your purpose burning in their hearts. This is their season of rising. This is their time of breakthrough. This is their moment of victory. In the mighty name of Jesus, who has already secured their triumph, I pray. Amen. My dear friends, you are not alone in this journey. I want to invite you to be part of this growing community of believers who understand what it means to be chosen, called, and sometimes misunderstood by the world. In the comments below, share what spoke to your heart today. Let others know they're not alone by sharing your own testimony of God's faithfulness. Ask questions if you need prayer or encouragement. This community stands ready to lift you up. If this message touched your spirit, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their time has come. There are others out there feeling forgotten, overlooked, ready to give up on their dreams and their calling. Your obedience to share this message might be exactly what heaven uses to remind them of their worth. And if you want to stay connected to more prophetic words, more encouragement, more reminders of who you are in Christ, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a word that heaven wants to speak over your life. Thank you for staying with me through this entire message. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what God wanted to tell you today. Thank you for being part of this family of believers who refuse to give up on the promises of God. You are chosen. You are loved. You are victorious. Your time has come. May the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, guard your hearts and minds as you walk in the fullness of your calling. Until we meet again, keep rising, keep believing, keep trusting that heaven's best for your life is still unfolding. Go in peace, go in power, go in the confidence that you are exactly who God says you are.